it's not so easy and it's not lucky.
Welcome on board, welcome to Budapest, and welcome to the second continental meeting of the TRUE project. I'm Gábor Bertényi, representing the smaller organizing and co-hosting entity of this workshop and conference. I'm quite happy to see many familiar faces all around us, and also happy to see some not so familiar faces, indicating that the freestyle Pecha Kucha design and the unique venue hadn't horrified anyone to stay away from this event. I hope that the tiny minor details are coming slowly together, and this is the time to retrospectively congratulate for all the organizers of the previous meetings in Edinburgh, in Hohenheim, and in Athens, because I'm starting to appreciate the organizational work much more than before trying to do that by myself. And it's also the time to say thank you for the management and the owners of A38, the ship, the very ship where we are, for providing the location technically for free. And moreover, we have the outstanding opportunity to hear very briefly some peculiar details about the history of this ship from the manager of communication, Mr. Benedek Gossák. So I'm handing over the mic, and afterward, Balint, the main organizer of the event, are going to talk about the Pecha Kucha protocols and the forthcomings throughout the day. So thanks for your attention. Please.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Bert, and welcome on the A38 ship, which is the first of your host land use this the next 3 years, 3 days. And thank you for the possibility to present the A38 ship in a few sentences. As you can see, we are literally on the Danube. This is the main river of Hungary, and a really strong and meaningful symbol, mainly for the older Hungarians. So this is a meaningful symbol of the sustainability and the environmental thinking, because the modern Hungarian environmental thinking and movement began with the Dunakör, the Danube Circle, which was a protest movement in the end of the communist era. This was a protest movement against the Gabčíkovo-Nagymaros Dam, which was intended to build on the Danube and near to Bert's living house in Nagymaros. So the ship itself also demonstrates, or tries to demonstrate the power of sustainability, because this building, not this, but the other, the original ship, is exactly 50 years old. It was built in 1968 in the former Soviet Union in Ukraine, and it used to be a cargo ship. Which was a barge for heavy load like coal or stones or gravel and so on. And after 30 years of service, the ship was abandoned. The reason of this was the Yugoslavian war at the end of the 90s. And the NATO, maybe the older ones remember this. The NATO bombed all the Serbian bridges into the Danube, and the transport and the cargo traffic at the lower Danube was totally stopped, and the ship was abandoned, and it was transported to a so-called ship cemetery into the Delta of Danube.
First of all, I would like to thanks to all of my colleagues who contributed in the organization of this event. So from ESSRG, Esther, Janka, Orsi, and from Agriculture also Gábor, Attila, and really from basically all the consortium, mostly with the help of Henrik from the University of Hohenheim. But most importantly, at this moment, I would like to give the floor to Pete, just for a couple of words, as the project coordinator, to give us a guidance at this moment. Come to the floor, please, and then I hand over the mic. And then very quickly I will run through the program for this afternoon and tell you who is in the first session before the break and then who is after.
I'm going to try and speak slower than normal. I've been told off that I speak far too quickly for somebody with a Scottish accent. So I'm going to try and be slow. But I'll try not to say too many words. Thank you all for coming. Really, I know some of the people I know, but there's a lot of faces here I don't know. So great. I look forward to meeting you and getting to know you over the next 2 days. So I have the honour of being the coordinator of TRUE. It's a great honour to have, and many of the people will know what I'm about to say already, which is that I've been waiting a long time for westernised cultures to wake up to legumes. But they're only just beginning to wake up, I feel, and it's great to be on a ship like this to be talking about it, and I think it's a fantastic rally point for people who are going to change things, and it is. Rally points like this don't exist. I'm slightly jealous that the boat is younger than me. We're only by a year. But I really hope you enjoy the few days. I'm not going to lead you, actually, if you're thinking at all. If anything, actually, I'd like you to lead me and to lead the project. So I hope you have a great time. I hope you'll learn a lot from each other. And I look forward to hearing what you've all got to say. Thank you.
I will tell you about the sector analysis we conducted with ESSRG and some experience from our farm concerning legumes. We conducted 17 semi-structured interviews with different professionals. This is the legume members network that we mapped, and you can see some of the stakeholders we could talk to, and some member groups did not want to talk to us. And there is a growing number of healthy and conscious consumers who are looking for alternative products, but these products are either really expensive or hard to come by in regular stores. And there is not too much product innovation locally. So there is a lot of opportunities there could be in Hungary for legumes. There is a lot of research and breeding going on, so there is a genetic pool. There is knowledge for producing legumes, and we have a good climate and good soils for this, and we should use them more. So it's not so great with legumes, but it could be better. And what we can do, I will tell you a little bit, second part of this presentation, how to provide new products and educate consumers. So I'm not just a researcher, I'm also a farmer. And I grow vegetables in Szezonkert in Telki. This is very close to Budapest. It's two of us, and we like all kinds of crazy veggies, and our consumers like all kinds of crazy veggies. And since we produce organically, we really need the legumes in our crop rotation as much as possible, because they fix nitrogen, because the residues are really good as mulch or a good component in the compost. And they're a very diverse group of crops, so we can really experiment with them a lot. And there is a lot of local varieties and a lot of local traditions in growing legumes, but there is also some problems. For example, freezing your beans in May in a frost. It's very sad. You're not expecting a frost end of May. So it's a changing climatic conditions like less water in spring, warmer springs. Oh, kind of sting bugs also. Don't like them, but there are some traditional products our consumers are really used to. It's very like the ones we eat in Hungary. It's green peas, like shelling peas, green beans, and dried beans. So this is how we start talking to them, and then we try to make these in good quality and as an extended season as possible. So we use different varieties, and then we have some innovative products. These can be new species or varieties unknown to the Hungarian consumer, like chickpeas. They're not unknown, but not known to be produced in Hungary, or faba beans, or artuki beans, or sugar snap peas. And also then we have new uses for traditional crops or new crops, like edible flowers. We sell these to restaurants or wedding cakes as decoration. They're really tasty, and I will pass them around. You can taste them. And the way to popularize these new products is that we use social media and we try to cook for our friends as much as possible, and then put them some food in front of them and tell them, this is some bean flowers or some pea shoots. Also, I'm going to pass this around. And we also participated in this research with Legumes, which will also hold a presentation. It's really exciting to try out Hungarian varieties of something that is now seems innovative in Hungary, but for example, faba beans or chickpeas could be grown and were grown here, and there is local varieties, and then there's always new varieties and species we haven't tried yet, like the asparagus peas or the lupin or the mild long beans. So there's always more opportunities to keep on going. And we would also like to extend a little bit our seed saving and seed swapping, and yes. So legumes are great, and we are really happy to be working with them.
Hello, my name is Orsolya Pap. I'm Deputy Director in UMKI, Hungarian Research Institute of Organic Agriculture, and now I would like to introduce our work. We are funded 2011 with aim to foster scientific research of organic agriculture in Hungary. And regarding this research, we have launched an on-farm participatory research network 1 year later. So what does it mean? It means that the practice-oriented questions are defined with farmers together, and simple experiments which fit into the farm's everyday practice, and all the data capturing, evaluation and discussion happens together with them. And I brought 4 examples. First is about minor cereals. Corn and emmer land races, they have a lot of advantages, for example, resistances and low gluten. And we had trials with 14 varieties of corn and emmer. Here you can see on the pictures, some of them could not survive the winter, but some are pretty green. And although the price, which was 300 euro per ton last year, there are still a lot of challenges to work with to get bigger markets for them. The second is about beekeeping. My colleague Tamás Csáky has started testing the efficacy of different types of varroa control treatments with 143 beekeepers. And because of this on-farm network research, these beekeepers have changed their conventional practices to using organic acids, for example, lactic acid and oxalic acids, and many of them already converted to organic beekeeping. The third example is about species-rich seed mixtures in Hungarian vineyards. Why do we need cover crops at all? Because of the climate change, we face to extreme weather conditions, for example, heavy rainstorms, and it gives soil degradation. And because of this, we tested 3 types of mixtures. Here you can see the species list. Biocont Ecovid was already on the market, and the legumes mixture, grass hair mixture, was developed by us. In pictures, Biocont Ecovid mixture contain several species which are non-native to Hungary, and the other 2 contain really just those plant species which are native to Hungary. Many of famous vineyards took part in this research. And I am happy to say that after the 4 years long experimental work, we could introduce our first product, Önki élő sorköz seed mixture, and it is produced by Hungarian seed company Lightomag, and under the first pre-orders 1 ton of seed mixture was already sold. And the last example is about landrace tomatoes. 27 landrace varieties were raised from Nödik storages and took place in 47 organic vegetable farms, several places in Hungary. And through the on-farm trial, many tastings were arranged with consumers and with chefs. And regarding the results, we could select 6 best ones. Here you can see on the pictures, these are very beautiful tomatoes. They are named about the place where they were found. And in the frame of From Soy to Plate campaign, we could sell seedlings of these 6 landraces tomatoes, 2,000 pieces of them. And I'm very happy to say that the bigger volume project is under negotiation for the next year. So thank you very much for your patience.
My name is Lajos Horváth. I am the head of the department at Tápiósfele at the Center for Plant Diversity. Here I will speak to you about the possibilities and the sustainability of our gene bank resources. So I will try to show you how usefully we can use our resources for the climate changes and for the economic growing. Here you can see the numbers of the gene bank, the numbers of the accessions, and in the level you can see the numbers of legumes. So you can see the largest collection is from common bean at Tápiósfele. Let's take the first one. The pea is a very simple part for gene bank. The pea is a fairly good state in the Hungarian agriculture. We have a lot of variety for growing, but what it would be necessary that because of water shortage, and also in the case of chickpea, because of the spring water shortage, we could go to grow winter type of these plants. As you can see, the CPD has a winter type chickpea also. The grass pea has never been used in the Hungarian agriculture at large. No, you can find it only in the middle of the Hungarian plain and grown in a salty territory. But the grass pea is very good for the dry climate change. The faba bean is a bit humid plant, but we at the CPD have fairly good expressions for dry territory also. But the next is the cowpea. The cowpea was grown in the last century in the middle of Hungary on sandy soil. Today we cannot find it, but we have a fairly good collection from it. Very suitable eco-plant, but the danger is here, as you can see. Here you can see some vigna species. We still don't know this type of vigna how can grow, how long and how profitable can grow in Hungary. The lentil collection is more than 1,000. Also the winter type may be important, as we know the breeding of winter type lentil is going on today in Hungary. peanut can grow in the middle of Hungary, on the sandy hills, as we call this territory. Very good eco-plant, but the climate change should be warm and rainy for the peanut. Runner bean, you have seen here the flowers of the runner bean, can be cultivated under ecological conditions, but one humid plant, so the climate change should be a bit more rainy and should be warmer. The lima bean also can find in the Hungarian gardens, but not so much. You can see that it is a fairly late plant, so this is bad for growing. Labla bean is mainly an ornamental plant today in Hungary, but also it can be eaten. But what is very important, that the soaking of the bean is very necessary because a bit poisoning. The common bean, even by chance, so black, because we have problem with the common bean in growing today in Hungary. So, but we realize in the gene bank that they are bad on weather anomalies of climate change.
Thank you. First, thank you for the invitation. At the Indere Institute, we are conducting research and innovation project focusing on catering sector. The main focus of our project is the contract catering sector and the children's catering is where we collect data and conduct research. So, in this presentation, I will show you some data that are related for legume consumption. We conducted research with food consumption, but in this presentation, you will see the legume data. This is the most preferred legume dishes in the Hungarian school catering. You can see the green pea, green bean, kidney bean, lentil, and yellow pea are often served in catering school food. You can see some examples here. The Hungarian children eat just like this food. You can see this is all menu contains legume ingredients. But the problem is that the aim is to serve healthy and nutritious food for kids, and the nutrients are carefully calculated. But the kids often reject the food. So why we calculate what they have to eat? They will not eat all the food they get. So our aim was to obtain data about the real consumption of school children. So we conduct research in more than 80 primary and secondary school. This is just a food preference survey based on real consumption. This is the basic of the methodology. We weighed the served food, and after we weighed the returned food according to ingredients. And from these two data, we calculated the real consumption. And now I will show you data that are related to legumes, because we are, so this is how does it looks like in real world, or colleagues collect the rejected food here. So this is the only method how can we obtain data about the real consumption. If it was possible, we tried to collect the returned food according to ingredients. It was not possible in case of soups, but in other dishes, just like this is a green pea stew, we conducted the green pea stew in one bin and the meat was in another bin. And after that we weighed the returned food. And this was the basis of our survey, food preference survey. Okay, let's see some data. So in the survey, in the 24 schools was served legume legume dishes, dishes that are containing legume ingredients, and this affected more than 2,000 consumers, teachers and students also. And this is the data. So this was more than 700 kilogram food, and more than 400 were consumed. And you can see in the right side the weight of the legume ingredients. This is the consumption in school per person. So one children eat 310 gram of food that contains 84 gram legume ingredients, and it was consumed about 70–80%. You can see the food preference. The lens is lentil. Sorry about this mistake. The most popular food was the lentil in this survey, and the kidney bean, green pea, green bean, and the average of all legumes was 67%. And you can see the 74% was the average of all food in our survey. So you can see the popularity of the legumes in school catering. You can see how many portions was served. In the case, it means the institute where we conducted the research. This is the same data in graph. You can see in the case of green bean, the standard deviation was quite high. So it means that many people eat well the green bean, and many children rejected it. So the popularity was not was diverse. What are the problems? So too many waste is being generated. That you are working with legumes, so your work wasted. 20% of your work is wasted in schools in this environment. The second problem is that the aim of the regulation was to eat our children well, but if they reject their food, the efficiency of the regulation was between 60 and 80%. This is another problem. So what can be the solution? This is a good question. I have no exact solution, but we have ideas. We're conducting some research project to change the attitude by educational campaigns and serve appealing dishes for children. It needs creativity at first, and innovation and budget, and maybe the system of school catering must be changed. Thank you.
The NAIC was established in 2014, and 12 traditional Hungarian agriculture and food research institute and 4 companies were integrated here. And one of them is the Department of Field Crop Research in Szeged. I work in this institute, and we have 3 laboratories in Szeged and 2 research stations in one of them is in Szeged, Öthalom, and the other is in Fülöp-Szállás. Our main research programs, our main projects are the we're studying of different cropping systems and the maintenance and development of genetic resources of grain legumes and the plant pathology research of the main crops. The biggest agricultural challenges is the population and climate change, which mean the warmer temperature and increased frequency of the extreme climatic events like drought, flood, or storms, and also the new diseases, weeds and insects. Historically, if we check the sowing area of legumes in the last 100 years, we can see that in the middle of the 20th century, there was 600,000 up to 1 million hectares of legumes, but in the 1990s it was decreased, and it's a very big problem because it's missing from the plant rotation systems. Our main goals are to place these crops to the rotation system again, and to give opportunity for healthy food and alternative protein feed for farmers and for consumers. And we are also working with breeding new cultivars, and we work with chickpea, field pea, faba bean and soybean. When we start our project 3 years ago, we first collected genetic resources from gene banks and our partner institutes. We ask genotypes from Tapiocele, from USDA, from Kenya, from Morocco, and from the INRA, France and Morocco. It is very important to ask drought-tolerant materials, because in Hungary it's a big problem. And then in the second year we saw these materials on the field to check their adaptability and the yield potential of them, and take some notes about flowering time, flower color, pods number, seed number and seed color. And also we make laboratory work for these materials. We measure the protein content, the amino acid profile, and trypsin inhibitor analysis.
I just started to work on this case study a month ago. It's from my country, Italy. Why is Italy the largest soybean production in Europe? That's the question I'm asking, and I don't know why. So I'm trying to interview people in Italy. I just wanted to give you a brief lecture, since I'm a professor at CU, so I like to lecture people. No, I'm joking. This is, you all know right what it is, and that's why farmers should grow more beans, because they have this ability to fix the nitrogen from the atmosphere and give the plant what it needs for as a source of food. So this is a very important process, and it's all about why are beans so important environmentally for agriculture. And here is a long list of pros, why farmers grow, especially soybean. It increases the fertility, tolerance to biotic stresses, sustainability, and of course they will have to use less fertilizers, synthetic nitrogen fertilizers, and other things. So the question is, what are the policies in support of soybean production in Italy? And most of them come from the European Union, so from the CAP. So those are the green payments, which are connected to crop diversification. So farmers need to have a different number of crops in their fields continuously, and also they need to combine this with rotations. It's about a similar thing, but basically the idea is to have different type of crops, so to get away from monoculture and to improve the environmental sustainability. Sorry, that's way too fast for me. So I wanted to show you where soybean is produced in Italy, and it's mainly northern Italy, because northern Italy receives a lot of all this CAP payments. In southern Italy it's not the case, mainly because they don't have enough water. So there is many reasons why this is happening. This is a field in northern Italy, so they're trying to basically grow soy as a second harvest, and they seed it already on the wheat stubble with a special seeder. And here there's a way to like implement irrigation with this type of dripping irrigation. And here you see they have all sorts of monitoring for soil moisture to irrigate at the right time to save resources and lower the costs. This is a type of seeder that's been developed in Veneto, And so those are all technological advancements that have been implemented in northern Italy for soybean production. Processing industry is also, of course, backing up all this production. And this is one company which is called, it's a non-profit association. It's called Soya Italia. And it's based in northern Italy. And what they're trying to work on is, of course, non-GMO soybean. And that's the target of basically the Italian production, I guess the European production, since there is no way to have GMO soybean here. So this is another SIPCAM, is another processor which is working from A to Z in the soybean production cycle. So it starts with the innovation and all the way through support to farmers. This is another company which is called Cortel Extra Soy. It's been there for a long time. As you can see, they're all placed in northern Italy. They produce feed for animals. And so those are all ways to support the soybean production in Italy. And so why still is it such a big producer? So there is some history there. And Italy has been interested in soybean ever since the early 19th century. So there's a company located in Naples which was selling soybean already back then. And then after 1973, because of Nixon stopped the export of soy, Italy started producing more and more soy. So why are they doing it more now? Because there is a heavy dependence on foreign markets for soybean. So Europe is trying to produce soybean internally. There is a demand for non-GMO soybean, more vegetarian diets. But where do we place Italy in the big scheme of like markets of soybean? It's a very small player. Still you see that who are the big players in terms of soybean production. So these countries have tried to kind of stick together and produce some policy, sort of like some congregations to become stronger in the market. And you can see here how, for example, in Italy, producers of Parmigiano Reggiano are trying to have a non-GMO free animal feed. So they can market their products as non-GMO, totally non-GMO. So they're buying this soy from Italian producers. And the future is vegan, perhaps, but yes, even more so. This is our nutrition transition. We have moved now from like, some of us have moved from the middle line more into like a healthier lifestyle. So we're becoming more vegetarian, vegan, trying to get away from meat. And this is one of the partnership I was talking about earlier. It is not very sure completely. I think it's mostly Austria, Italy, and Romania, which are part of this Soy-Danube partnership. And this is another very important declaration. Hungary is part of it. Italy didn't sign it. I don't know why, I'm trying to find out. But this is all to produce soybean basically more locally, more sustainably. And so they're trying to partner together to have a different type of products for the European market. Thank you.
So, in the True project, as you see, Agriculti's case study is about introducing and testing Hungarian legume blend races in cultivation at the kitchen of modern restaurants. The presentation is the report of the first year's cultivation year and the future plans, also with some additional information on the possible role of legumes. The role of legumes in Hungarian gastronomy now. It's archetypical cheap food, so to speak. In the traditional Hungarian gastronomy is a sort of heavy dishes, but the gastronomy now would go for some more lighter things. This is the outline of our project. So we actually use a short food supply chain model. We cooperate with NÖDIK, use the genetic resources, we cooperate with ÖMKI, use the knowledge, and we cooperate with the producers and use their enthusiasm, and also we cooperate with the chefs to develop new recipes and new products. As you said from the presentation of Mr. Lajos Horváth, NÖDIK has a huge variety of legume blend races, over 10,000. Out of which like more than 4,000 common beans and many more in Tapio Sele. Out of those varieties, we used 7 species and 33 land races in this series. and these were disseminated for local farmers all over Hungary. This is a, well, I don't know how much you see, this is the map of these local farmers. We try to pay some attention that local varieties find their localities in Hungary, so not to mix the whole thing together. Of course, each and every farmer had just a sub-selection of this 33. These are our farmers now. Some of them already here. Kati is already here, and all of them are organic farmers. Three of them are registered organic farmers, but the others just use organic methods. Ömki's knowledge is really one of the crucial points. Many special thanks to Orsi Pap, who was in charge to compile the protocol and the technological description for each and every species and each and every varieties. As I said, Nödik is the reference site, so to speak, in the project, meaning that they planted all the 33 varieties, I mean, of course, among others. It might be noted that Nödik is not using organic methods, but they use a limited amount of fertilizers and pesticides. Zoltán Dezsény, one of our farmers, operating on 2 hectares, fully organic, and the most, let's say, successful plantation was lima beans so far. Katali Réti, you've already heard. I think the approach to sell these baby vegetables and edible flowers to premium restaurants is really a crucial point and the breakthrough point for legume production or in the modern gastronomy. Ágnes Palásti Kovács, the 4th generation farmer in Orgovány, Middle Hungary, operating on more than 20 hectares. Strangely enough, only lima bean and runner bean was performing well in her farm. One of my favorites, Erzsi Burik, who lives in the Danube Band, a small family farm, and it was really amazing how these land varieties performed. And you can see the traditional way of planting corn and bean together. Some pests and diseases. It's really just a very initial phase of data processing, but we can see that there are certain moth species, the stinky green bug, and of course viruses that might affect organic way of legume production. First results of the first year is really just very fresh photos from our kitchen. So these are basically the amounts, meaning that at least for the next years the seed is enough, but we have some limited possibilities to do the kitchen tests as well. Promising directions, as I said and Kati already said, the edible flowers of both the runner bean, the chickpea and also the cowpea are good directions. In case you don't have to wait for the beans themselves. Also green chickpea and also the green version of the cowpea. What are the conclusions? You can read them. Basically, we think that there is a change in Hungary in terms of the gastro-revolution, which has a demand for unique recipes and ingredients. Some legume species can be cultivated quite well, but it's still very early stage to say that this is the breakthrough point for legumes. These are the plans for the next 2 years. Most small-scale farmers to be involved, dietary and nutrition tests, recipe and product development, and sensory examinations, like in the case of apricot here, you can see. Many thanks for our farmers all year. Many thanks from the colleagues in Nödik, and many thanks from the colleagues in Ömki, and all the other friends and colleagues who helped us throughout this cultivation experiment. Thank you for your attention.
Hello,
nice to meet you. My name is Andrea Kopp and I'm a PhD student at University of Debrecen and a researcher at the Budapest Business School Department of Hospitality. Now I would like to inform you about our findings of vegetarian experiences and eating habits of Hungarian self-defined ovo-lacto vegetarians, vegans and omnivore women. So first, a short recap about vegetarian diets. Vegetarian diets contain no meat, fish or seafood, but ovo-lacto vegetarian diets allow milk, dairy and egg consumption. A vegan diet doesn't allow any animal-based products, including honey. So we were interested in them for the sake of sustainability, because decreasing the consumption of meat and dairy is good for our environment. However, there are only a few research about data based on real-life diets. That one is one of them, which inspired us. So our long-time plan is to compare nutritional and environmental traits of each diet based on 3-day food records. And then we would like to make carbon footprints and diet quality analysis. So in the first phase, we made a descriptive cross-sectional analysis, and we focused on lifestyle, health consciousness, and eating habits, and of course, to invite responders to a 3-day food record. About the statistics, here you can find our beautiful statistics. We made descriptive statistics, we measured the strength of the relationship between variables, and we also made testing differences of the real proportion in the populations with 2 sample Z-tests. About our sample, in the left side you can see the number of the answers. The number of male responders was relatively low in our groups, especially in the ovo-lacto vegetarian ones. So now that's why we only focused on women. Most of women in all groups are living in Budapest with partners or family, and are young adults with diploma or PhD, and more young adults were found among ovo-lacto vegetarians and vegans compared to omnivores. We couldn't find any significant relationship between the diet and the frequency of cooking at home, eating out at restaurants or canteens, or eating delivered food. However, daily cooking is the most popular among vegans, as you can see. No significant relationship was observed between diet and daily eating frequency. Among food frequencies, we found median relationship between diet and regular consumption of seitan, soy products and pulses. Who would guess? More vegetarians judge their health to be good than omnivores in our samples. And vegetarians reported improvement in health after going vegetarian. The top benefit was they have more energy and then have better digestion or better well-being. We found that many omnivores can be motivated to choose vegetarian meals in catering units. Health was the biggest motivation. We was interested in this because I work in a hospitality department, so we asked that. So at the end, I would like to highlight 2 things. Most vegetarian women feel good themselves, but only every 10th ask help from nutrition and professionals. However, cooperation, Hungary of professionals is needed, and omnivores can be motivated to eat more vegetarian meals in catering units, and marketing should be based on health and environmental benefits. So thank you for your attention, and here you can see your teams.
Hi, my name is Karen, and I have a question which is actually something 2 of you maybe could respond to. That's the gentleman and the lady over there, because you both talked about food service. And you had a conclusion about children were not so happy about the pea dishes. Some of them were rejected. and you had a conclusion about the marketing of health. Are there any ideas on how to take this further? Because I can only agree to your conclusions, but how to take this further to actually make a change? Thank you.
It's hard to improve legume consumption among omnivores because in Hungary it has the same price than meat. But I had an idea while I was making my presentation, and legumes and protein-rich pulses are very low in sodium. And high sodium consumption is a big problem in our country, and meat contains a lot of sodium. So I think that maybe that's a good way to try somehow to market it. And also the other regular stuff, fibers, good proteins, and the dangers of high meat consumption.
Maybe the cook needs more creativity. So they have to prepare more appealing dishes that are better to eat for children. And the other problem in Hungary that the budget, the question of budget. So the school lunch, the price of the school lunch is about €1 in Hungary. That's even in Hungary it's very low. So it must fit for this budget. It's other program. Maybe the more budget can help about the consumption.
So, for example, the legumes that are fed now, it's like a dish with cooked lentils. But what if you use lentils that are made from, that make a burger? Or are you going to look at consumer acceptance of these more creative and products? Or
yeah, it needs innovation or something like this. So make the food more appealing. This can be a solution.
But is it going to come from the cook themselves, or maybe it's not in the budget of Hungarian schools, but buy already like a lentil steak, or
I think that one of our first things to do is to fight against this myth that artificial, which is sometimes a synonym of processed in the consumer's mind, are dangerous things, but natural things looks exactly like the same, and no industrial input was made are goods. So as I see, a lot of consumer will reject, for example, a lentil, I don't know, sausage or something because it's processed, and that means it's artificial, so it's dangerous for their health. I think that's important to inform consumers that it's not so artificial or processed, it's not equal danger to have.
Because sausages are processed themselves anyway, no? The meat sausage, so.
Yes.
Sorry, your question was how much they cost?
Yeah, I want to buy it.
How much we're selling them for? We're usually selling like a larger box for €5. It's around, I would say like 10 flowers would cost you €1. So it's because it's very, very delicate work to pick them by hand, and they have to be perfect. And the other problem is that we have to maintain them cold. So basically, from the moment we pick them, in 2 minutes they are in the fridge, and when we deliver them in a freezing box. So smaller restaurants would order 10, 20 euros worth of edible flowers from us for a week. But sometimes we sell to a larger catering event for 100 euros, 150 euros.
I suppose there is literature evidence locally about their nutritional value, but did you test your product?
No, and we did not test them either for possible toxicity, but the thing is, these are, I would say, general knowledge that these flowers are not toxic, and we don't eat them by handfuls. Like anything will be toxic if you eat them a lot, but it's basically on one plate of food there is 1 or 2 of these flowers. And the other thing you asked about, I just say as a consumer, because I also don't eat too much meat and I eat all kinds of snacks and I like stuff. So there is lentil snacks, there is lentil pasta available, and I think now they're starting also to put them in the gluten-free flour mixtures and stuff like that. But it's mostly in the Drogerie Mart and Müller, like those are two places where they sell a lot of these alternative products, or larger vendors. But I think that's in Budapest, and you will not necessarily find stuff like this outside of health food stores outside of Budapest.
I tried it all.
I'm not surprised, but here I can tell you in Budapest there are places where you can buy stuff like this.
One of the reasons why legumes have been neglected from the CAP for the past 20-something more years. So it's already something that, you know, for example, a country like Italy is producing soybean just because of this type of payments they have, which apply to soybean production. And one of these is, for example, the fact that this kind of diversified one of those crops, they should be in the field. So in order for the farmer to receive the payment, the crop should be in the field at a certain time. For example, from April until the end of June. And that fits exactly the soybean cycle. So farmers have a lot of constraints in order to be able to, you know, pay the bills. And receiving this kind of payments is very important to them. But there is not such support for legumes. It's only now that we're starting to think about legumes within the CAP. So in my research in this case study, I'm trying to understand whether there are, for example, in Italy, any national policies that support this type of crops. And I had an interview yesterday with a person that is an agronomist and a journalist in an area, in the Po area, where basically most of the soybean is produced, which is in Emilia-Romagna, where there is a big river that, you know, where it has enough water to irrigate all the fields. And he said that there aren't any such policies at the national level as well. So I'm going to dig deeper into this. But yeah, so I think that's where we stand, both nationally and at the European level. So I think it's time to start changing this. And yeah, I guess we're all working towards this goal.
In the research that we conducted, it was with soybean production as well in Hungary, is what the policy is and how it is implemented and what it actually means when it comes down to producing something. That soybeans is part of greening payouts. And I think last year or this year they changed it that you cannot get the extra money for greening if you're spraying your soybeans with herbicides or pesticides. So it has to be basically organic. But Hungarian farmers would either stop growing soybeans because they grew it for the money, for the extra greening income, or they would spray it before the April time comes. So they spray it in March, and then the support only starts in April, and then they don't have to write it on the papers, and they still get the money. So it's just a little bit also the mentality of how we're using certain policies and payouts.
Hello, I'm from University of Hohenheim, and I would like to present you some results of our case studies from lentil farming in southwest Germany, about the farm structure and the motivation of the lentil farmers. We had 21 organic and 4 conventional farmers. They filled out questionnaires and we collected data concerning production, marketing, and also about their personal motivation and reasons why they started lentil farming. All organic farmers were part of the producer association called Albleiser. They organized the cultivation, the cleaning and processing of the lentils, and the marketing. The conventional farmers did direct marketing on the farms. The farms had an average size of 60 hectares and were on 730 meters of sea level with an average temperature of 7.5 degrees. And lentils were cultivated on averagely 3 hectares, and 50% of the farms were part-time farmers. Under the climatic conditions of the Soybean Alp, lentils have to be grown with a companion crop. The most used companion crops are camelina, barley and oat. And this is important because the lentil plant is very fragile and needs support so it can be harvested. The yields of the lentil were 640 kilograms for the organic and 820 kilograms for the conventional lentils. The range is really wide with variations from 0 to 1,000 kilograms per hectare in this case. The yields for the companion crops were 140 and 400 kilograms for organic and conventional camelina, 1,000 and 1,700 for organic and conventional oat, and 1,400 and 1,700 kilograms per hectare for barley. The initial motivation to start lentil farming came for 82% of the farmers from an impulse from outside, like neighbors or the farmer association. This association had renewed the lentil cultivation since it had disappeared in the 1950s. So a very important factor was the access to a separation facility for the farmers. The lentils and companion crops are harvested together and need to be separated. This separation technique is very expensive, and therefore this was an important requirement for the farmers to start lentil farming. Agronomic reasons were for 91% of the farmers a reason that they cultivate lentils, because the lentils adapt very well to their crop rotations and to the climatic and soil conditions of the farms, even on those stony farms, stony fields, as you can see there. 82% of the farmers indicated that the effects on biodiversity, environment, and society were important reasons to start lentil cultivation. The appreciation of the lentil is very high in the society, and one farmer said to me, suddenly you're not just a normal farmer, then you're a lentil farmer. This is something that they are proud of. The media and television, the newspapers have given a lot of attention to the local lentil production, and this was for 45% of the farmers very important because it made them be seen. Also science, universities like Hohenheim and other breeding organizations have initiated projects with the lentil farmers. And for example, Slow Food also did a project with them. So at the conclusion, what is the main drivers of the lentil success in southwest Germany? It's sales. But we need a market. In Germany, southwest Germany, we have the region of Stuttgart, a big city and a touristic area of the Soybean Alp, which creates a market that is able to pay these high prices for the local lentil. And you cannot underestimate the effect one single person can have. This is the founder of the association, and all farmers said to me that he was the motivator, and they benefited from his first experiences he made in lentil farming. So you need someone who has to start.
My name is Claudia. I work for Slow Food Germany, which is one of the two project partners. Our task is to create a cookbook with legume recipes. First of all, I would like to introduce you Slow Food, and then I will talk about our work in the framework of the two projects. Slow Food is an international eco-gastronomic member-supported non-profit organization which was founded in 1989 in Italy to counteract fast food and fast life and promote local sustainable food. Slow Food is a grassroots network whose supporters link the pleasure of good food with responsibility and commitment to their community and the environment. Slow Food involves over 1 million activists, chefs, experts, youth, farmers, fishers and academics in over 170 countries. The Slow Food Network is linked to local groups worldwide. The members organized in these groups contribute to their membership fee as well as the events and campaigns they organize. What kind of food is slow? What kind of food does slow food consider as sustainable and of high quality? Yeah, in a nutshell, food has to be good, clean and fair. Good refers to the taste of food, which should be tasteful and enjoyable. Clean refers to the different levels. Food should be produced in an environmentally friendly way, respect animal welfare. Food products should be as natural as possible without any artificial coloring or artificial flavors and other additives as well as preservatives. Fair, anybody along the supply chain should be treated in a fair way, respecting social justice with adequate pay and fair conditions, which means, for example, safe workplace, healthy work conditions for all, from the production to the trade to the consumption. Slow food connects producers and co-producers. Co-producers are the consumers. Educates consumers and children, protects food, biodiversity, and cultural diversity. We are organizing events and develop campaigns. Yes, and we fosters network building and exchanges. Yeah, the Slow Food Youth Network is a worldwide network of young people creating a better future through food. They stimulate awareness. They stimulate positive awareness about important food issues such as of how to feed the world, how to counteract food waste and establish a sustainable food production. We have international and national different education programs. Here you can see some of them. For example, the Slow Food Youth Academy, where young change makers come in discussion with producers. Or about the Teller statt Tonne is a project against for food waste. In 2003, Slow Food created the Slow Food Foundation for Biodiversity, and this project supports I lost myself. So the project is for defending our world's heritage of diverse crops, animal breeds, and food traditions. Yes, we have one big network. It's called Terra Madre. And this one is bringing together farmers, fishermen, and breeders with cooks, researchers, and academics and youth. This year, it's next week in Turin, in Italy, so if you are there, join us. So Slow Food has a network called Soybean, which consists of producers, sellers, and consumers who support each other to enforce the consumption of legumes. Different projects, knowledge exchange on topics such as harvest, product management, consumer promotion, and marketing are implemented to raise awareness of legumes. So, how does all this information fit in with the true project? The different fields of interest are good reason to involve slow food, to revive the use of legumes in today's kitchen. Slow Food was given the task to create a cookbook with recipes to encourage a sustainable food system. Besides the recipes, every dish is accompanied by historical information. Beyond that, nutritional values and ecological footprints are indicated. So, to contribute to the cookbook, we can share a recipe template, or if you prefer, an online questionnaire. Here you can see some questions we are curious about. So any food category is welcome. A salad, soup, stew, casserole, a side dish, even the most unknown use of legumes like in cakes, ice cream or other sweets. So we are collecting the recipes in Germany, Italy, Georgia and Albania and to other European slow food networks. Furthermore, we ask you, and especially the true partners, to help us out. Please spread the word and let us find amazing legume recipes. During the whole project, Slow Food is asked to make the true project and its goals and legumes and their advantages known. So at our events, network meetings and in our educational programs, we consider the theme of legumes. So during Terramade 2018, so next week, we will have a meeting between chef alliance, that are chefs who are cooking after the slow food philosophy, and Soybean's member I mentioned before, to talk about how we can find recipes with almost forgotten legumes.
I will begin to present you the team through in Portugal. To be honest, we're not all here because we all work in Soybean project. That it's the name of the project I'm going to present to you. So there should be a lot of more pictures there, but there were not enough space. Our main objectives at the moment were to raise awareness, to promote consumption, and to create another legume as a real option in our menus. Also alternative in environmental options, and of course our main challenge was the economic, because it's easy to base a project with economical advantages. Over the years, we've been investing in some projects to take our consumers to know our legumes, because we found out it was a problem. Most of our consumers are not used to see legumes in raw and are not used to cook them also. So we invested in showing people how do legumes look like. I don't know what happened. Okay. We also are a big company, a catering company, and we found out that we should not direct our project only to our consumers. So we decided to call our employees, our colleagues, to this project, and we launched a contest of recipes. It looks like we are aligned. We had this contest that should gather a lot of recipes that we would later on try with our chefs. And it worked. It went well. We gathered a lot of recipes and they were tested by our chefs, tested by our consumers, tested by our colleagues. After that, we began working with other partners. One of our partners, and one of the most important partners we are still working, is the Portuguese Nutrition Association, that has also a campaign in Portugal called A Portion of Legumes Per Day, that wants to raise the awareness of the importance of legumes in our everyday choices. That is not that common in Portugal now. Over the times, we found out some of this has been changing mentality among other organizations, including ministries of health and ministries of education. And in the last 2 years, we had 2 laws that were issued that made mandatory menus of vegetarian-based legumes options for everyday menus. Well, what I meant was that one of the laws makes that we have to have everyday menus with vegetarian options. And on the other hand, we also have guidelines for canteens and buffets in schools that have decided to include legumes also as an option. Well, based on this, it makes equality to other companies, and we are working all the same way, or at least that's how it should be. That was good news, right? Well, sometimes good news are not that easy to make true, because when we went to put legumes on children's menus, most of them don't want to eat legumes because they are not used to eat them. They don't like it, except if they are in a puree, okay? If they are in whole, they don't want. And so something very good turns out to be something very difficult. But we've been trying in campaigns to make it more funny, to make it more appealing, and believe it or not, it's not always with children. Sometimes you have to play these games with adults also. One of our other problems were with vegetarian menus, because we have increasing in vegetarian population, but they are not always that vegetarian. Sometimes they want meat-like options, as someone was talking before. They want a vegetarian dish that looks like has meat or fish. So the processed products are much more appealing than only legume menus. And that was a problem because some of our consumers were always asking for something else. Oh, a dish with legumes is not enough, it's not complete, it's not healthy. And sometimes it doesn't look good. I don't know if you have this problem, but sometimes we have. They may taste good, they may be good for your health, but they don't look good. And so no one will eat it, right? We have been working on presentation. We have been testing trendy in food. But for that, we have to have more and more investment in canteens, in restaurants. And we have to change food habits, because choosing badly is normally easier than choosing healthy. And the work is being done, but it's not only a work of companies, it's not only a work of Ministry of Education, of Ministry of Health. You have to work also with investment in kitchens. Our kitchens don't look like this. Most of them look very bad, because most of them are hidden. Most of the consumers don't see a kitchen, so they are not primary choice for investment. So probably if you don't have equipment, if you don't have good conditions, it's difficult to have good cook. It's difficult to make good choices. Also, you have to work at home. You have to share tradition, recipes, you have to share meals. That is a social problem that has to be changed, and it has to change from all the partners, not only for laws, not only for companies, it has to be a problem shared by families. We are now working with Compass Group all over the world, because Eurasia Portugal belongs to a group that's Compass, and we are gathering recipes from all over the world, from our colleagues, and hope to have more information and more recipes with different legumes to show you next time. By now, we are on our second attempt to issue an ebook. We have our first one, and we are now testing with the consumers and the chefs the second round of recipes that we will be sharing the next time with you, also along with the data from our investment from the last year, along with consumption that I hope to be bigger and better than the last data we showed you on the other poster. I give you my contacts, and I hope you like my presentation. That was improvised, so, well, it didn't went very bad.
Hello. Sorry. I am Marcela. I'm from Bangor University, and together with Trinity College of Dublin, we belong to work packaging number 5, which will assess the environmental and nutrition analysis of legumes across Europe. So, I'm going to talk about environmental assessment, and tomorrow at poster sessions you can have more information about the nutrition part. So what do we want? We want more than generic labels, more than eco-friendly and sustainable labels. We want to provide accurate information for consumers about the legumes footprint and with transparency, and for policymakers about the potential of legumes to address environmental challenges. So, when we consume a product, it's very easy to understand the waste that we generate. But sometimes we don't realize the pre-chain, the industrial phase, or the agricultural phase behind. This concept, it's called life cycle assessment, and it's the basis for our analysis. So when we talk about farm level Europe, what's common? Typical rotations with grains. So the grains goes to livestock and industry, but we import a lot of proteins, like soybean from Brazil. When we introduce legumes on these rotations, we can have the benefits of nitrogen fixation, providing this for the following crop, saving some mineral fertilizers, and avoiding this importation. So all of this will be, we will build a base for evaluating the nutritional and the environmental impact of human diets. We select here 7 main pathways to analyze. Pasta from legumes, protein flakes, breakfast cereal, made all of legumes. So, for the direct consumption of legumes to replace meat, and also this is a solution for the not that much vegetarian people. It's milk and meat through animals fed by legumes, or through animals which were raised on legumes pasture systems. So all of these pathways, we will simulate different human diets and the environmental and nutrition aspect of it. So what do we need to calculate this? We need to define the farm's typologies and the main legumes rotation systems that exist in Europe on the 3 different pedoclimatic regions. What are the potentials? And then why I'm sharing this, because after we define this typology, we will have to collect a lot of data from farms and from industry. So we were going to look for farms who is willing to provide data from the inputs, management practice, yields, nutrient balance, and also industries for their processing. Of course, we will count with other true partners, experts for defining it, and we will also have a lot of partnership to get secondary data. And our plan is collect all the data by April next year and have the final farm level LCA by October. And then we can work together with the pathways, with Trinity College, with the pathway simulations and the diet simulations to find the optimum diet in terms of nutrition and environmental impact. So if you know any company or any farm that will be willing to share their data, please contact me, and will be a lot of helpful. Thank you very much.
Hello. I saw the title in the list. I think it will be more a global presentation than a German one. I saw a lot of nice initiatives from cooperatives, NGOs, and so on. And I think the issue is not at the consumer level, neither. Not at the cooperatives, not at NGOs, not at scientific level. I think the politics. There is no consensus in Europe about legumes. We have the CAPs and all this stuff, but it's not effective enough. I think it should be imposed. You know, I remember in the middle 90s, beginning of 2000s, they were given money for cutting up grapes wineries in Hungary. I remember, you know. If this was supported with so big money, I think legume research and legume diversification should be at least funded at the same level. So I have a good friend in Netherlands. He's the boss of the 6th animal feed producing company in the world. And I'm asking him when he participates in new project, what do you need for your animals? Protein. So legumes, it's about protein. It's this you know better than me. Okay, it's just a sort of generics. What we have in Europe, but soy, and not the European soy, but the soy from Asia and South America is dominating. But why we choose legumes? Because of their high nutritional value. It's not only about proteins, they have important fats, which are important, and the amino acid ratios are important also, and comparable with other types of feedstock. But we have a big dilemma, you know, it's ups and downs. So this is the biggest dilemma of our lifetime. Population growth means more food, welfare growth means more meat, urbanization more food and less land. This is from United Nations. So statistics, I will not be so quick, I'm like slow food. I woke up at 3 a.m. today, so I'm clean, I'm fair, but I'm not sustainable today. So products must be very attractive. Somebody told one presentation ago that they have to look tasty, they have to be attractive. They have to be authentic. It means authenticity of raw materials is very important for the consumers nowadays in Europe. It's a big trend. There are laboratories built in Germany. I think also in Hungary there will be, if not labs built, but methods implemented for authenticity and regionality proofing. Also trust is very important. So this GMO hype, you know, it's still there in the heads of Europeans, and I think it's good that it's like that, because it's a chance for diversification. So this should be also taken into account. You know, this is the global protein demand forecast in million tons. You see here animal protein ratios. It's growing. It's normal, because the well-being societies in the West are demanding more and more animal protein. The share of meat substitutes in total meat sales. See, here is a forecast from Euromonitor. It's not really booming, you know, and it's booming in Germany every year. I think we have an increase of 8 to 13% in meat replacers. So that's why IGV also followed this trend, lived with this trend together. So a little bit about who we are, okay? We were in 1960 a public institute, research institute. Then there was a reunification of two Germanies. The guys from the West came and told us to close or to privatize, because they had in the West the same profile institute. So we privatized. We are a company today. And we have these pillars in our company. We have food technology, which means grain processing into food and related products. We have plant tech. This is very special. I will tell you later if you want. It's about microalgae, extraction, cosmetics, nutraceuticals, and so on. And we have a very sophisticated test laboratory. We have, I think, more than 14 mass spectrometers. It's top instrumentation, state of the art, and we are working together with the universities and research organizations around Berlin, Brandenburg, but also nationally. this is our boring organigram. I will not tell you very much about it, but as you see, we have bakery technology, we have labs, we have microalgae cultivation, and I'm here somewhere, okay? I'm making projects and money for the others. So, and this is for 7 years already. So I'm very slow. What IGV is doing is working with pea proteins, with plant proteins in general, but with pea especially, with green pea, to produce new protein ingredients for system products. You will see later what I am talking about. We are extracting from plants different bioactives for the beverage industry. Protein and sports nutrition is in our focus. Our products are vegan and vegetarian, most of them vegan. We are investigating the quality of our products. Okay, it's not very independent, not very objective, but we do it for us. Okay, and we are sure that they are clean. And we are enriching with vitamin B12 for the vegan market. This vitamin B12 comes from microalgae. So this is an example. Okay, we have muesli enriched with protein flakes. You see here the content of protein per 100 gram. So it's quite high. Okay, in the related end product it will be around 25–27%, but still a high protein claim there. Here you see other types and shapes like nuggets or crispies. We have already pasta products for the market ready. And yeah, we have even 76–80% protein in our products. How we work, we have the white box and the black box, okay? So this is our secret. This is also our secret because nobody could copy us until now, even not the Chinese. So, and we have these system applications, you know. Yeah, I want to cheer you up because it's late afternoon. I'm tired anyway. So protein bars, usually vegan bolognese. I was last week in Basel to a kick-off meeting, and I was telling the Italian coordinator that we have vegan bolognese, and they started to laugh. So we will have a project meeting next year, so I will serve them to see that it really tastes like meat. So it's really, I have tasted in Germany many products. There are a lot in the market based on wheat, on soy, on whatsoever, but the pea really doesn't have this off taste, okay? We have even burgers or Kochklöpse, how the Germans say. Yeah, this is how we work on B2B and B2C basis. I will go quicker. We won also 2 important prizes, innovation prizes for our products, one in Brandenburg County and one on European level at Protein Summit. I was there, very happy, couldn't sleep, like now. When we compare the biological activity of our products with those of whey protein, just look. Okay, this is a pea isolate which we took from the market. I will not tell the name of the company, but it comes from France. So you know already. And we modified it with our processing, and look at the amino acid ratio, okay? And we also add vitamin B12 following the WHO recommendation. And if you eat around 100 grams of this product per day, you have the protein intake per day, so you don't have to kill the beef and other slaughteries. We also analyzed products. There are mass products on the market, false vitamin B12, okay? There are biological active ones, which we have also tested in our products. And there are the intermediary and inactive forms. You can eat for 30 years from this, but you will not get really biological activity. So we are checking this as well. Factors influencing legume markets. The farmer has the biggest dilemma, you know? He has to dream about this every night until he decides which crop he will take. And then we came with a little bit of cap, you know, and then he says maybe it will be good, maybe not. But there are also climatic and soil constraints, so it has to be clear for everybody. You cannot cultivate everything everywhere. So it has to be somebody at the European Commission with brain, not as today when they try to exclude Hungary from the European Union, but because that would punish Hungary, okay? I don't want to make politics, but anyway. So this is my email address. I am Hungarian, I have a Romanian passport, and I work for Germans.
And just as a context, for the Mediterranean consumers, legumes are very important, as you all know. We have a lot of traditional dishes made with legumes, but it's oftentimes easier said than done. And in fact, we don't usually practice what we preach. And so if you look at these numbers, and these are percent point changes in terms of what we should be eating according to our guidelines and what the Portuguese are actually eating, you can see that there's a big difference between how much we should be eating, in particular of dry legumes, and whereas we're eating a lot more meat and fish and other dishes that we shouldn't be eating as much. And if you look at the compliance to the Mediterranean Diet Index, a long time, and so this is an index that measures how the Portuguese, the Spanish, the Italians, the Croatians, the people from Greece are complying to our Mediterranean, supposedly very healthy diet. You can see that a long time we're actually lowering this index of compliance, and so things are not going so well. And on the other hand, childhood obesity is as high in the Mediterranean regions as it is than in other regions. So this is quite a bad scenario, and we need to use legumes to change this. And so what are we doing in terms of legumes in this project may have potentially a lot of impact. And this is the picture of the consortium in April of this year. Very nice group of people, some of them are here today. And what I wanted to just share with you some of the highlights of this Mediterranean Legume Innovation Workshop, where we had poster presentations. Here's Eleonora Barilli. She's from a company called Solintagro, and they are doing breeding of legumes, adapting legumes to be grown in Mediterranean regions and doing some phenotypical characterization. Here we have Vasiliki. She's doing grafting of legumes, looking at signaling mechanisms of legumes and how these can have higher abiotic or biotic stress resistance using these sort of tools in the lab. Another one of the things we had were discussions and presentations, and these are some of the findings and conclusions that were drawn out of this Mediterranean cluster. We concluded that many people still don't know how to cook legumes, so that seems to be transversal. It's not just something continental or Atlantic. In the Mediterranean, we also don't know how to cook legumes in a sufficiently good way, apparently, even though we have a wonderful feijoada dish that I hope you guys will try one day. The cost for family to switch to cheap available food, so there's still limitations in terms of costs. The time to prepare the legumes is still a hindrance, it's still a problem, and children, again, oftentimes don't like post-texture or flavor. I have a 12-year-old son, and just a few days back I had to sign, finally I gave in at his school because we are allowed to say which foods they are not obliged to eat, and it broke my heart to cross the legume grain section, because every year he asks me, "Mom, please don't make me eat legumes." And I never crossed that box, so I forced him. But this year I felt, okay, I'm gonna give in because he's 12, and I don't think I can change his mind anymore. But there are good things. So there are new products catered for kids and small toddlers, or there should be even more investment here. I think education is really important. And more dishes with legumes in markets and restaurants. And that's why also we're linking with EREST and other companies that are working in this area with True. We had a presentation from Gaia, who spoke about innovations in legume production and consumption, and he brought in some nice concepts.
namely that in Greece, legume production is increasing. So contrary to what's happening in other regions of the world, legume production has had a very big boost in Greece, and that was really wonderful to see in terms of different types of legumes. And he showcased some of the examples of available products that we have in the market right now. And you can find these very easily nowadays in most supermarkets. One of the latest ones was legume-based ice cream, which sounds a little strange, but it actually tastes quite good if you ever want to try it. I would advise it. He also introduced the concept of food miles, and so this is something that perhaps should be included in new types of labeling, because True project aims to devise short supply chains, and that means we want to, as much as possible, put the legumes in the system at a short distance from where it's grown. And that's not what's happening nowadays. And you can see here how many kilometers a soybean has to come and go through in order to reach our plates or reach that animal feed. And so that's what also True is trying to counteract. He also introduced the concept of the double pyramid, where you have here the pyramid of the regular food pyramid and then the inverted pyramid, which is called the environmental pyramid. And he highlighted how we should cross these two informations in order to make better food choices. Some of the knowledge gaps that were highlighted in this meeting, we spoke about knowledge gaps in terms of production. So not only do consumers not know how to cook or how to prepare legumes, but also farmers. A lot of farmers are still reticent, I don't say reticent, are still skeptical about growing legumes. They don't know how to do it, or they don't have the right incentives, so there's still knowledge to be gathered there. Education gaps, consumption gaps, and again the cap and the whole financial incentive story. So it's a recurrent topic. We went on a field trip, which was very beautiful, in the beautiful Feneos Valley. And we learned about the wonderful and delicious fava of Feneos, which is right here. This was the highlight of the meeting. I think everybody purchased bags of Feneo fava beans and lathyrus. I think another one was lathyrus. I haven't cooked mine. Has anybody cooked theirs yet? Show of hands. Yes? Oh, good job. And so what this company has shown is that it's possible to be successful even at a small scale if you use the right marketing tools. And one of them has to deal with authenticity, and this has been mentioned here before by Janos. So it's a big trend to bet on the special characteristics of your locally grown crop, which has been there for generations and generations, and this seems to be very appealing for the consumer these days. And a concept that I heard last week, which was about on a meeting about genetic resources and the valorization of land races, is that oftentimes people speak about, oh, this has a premium price, right? You've heard about the premium price that people pay for these sort of things, but it's actually the right or the fair price. So we shouldn't be talking about premium prices, but of fair prices, because these things cost a lot more to grow than the massively grown lentils or soybeans or whatever legume we're talking about. And also we spoke about digitalization and about the opportunities that are there of using new digital media and tools to promote legumes, and of the importance of not working alone. And that's really the concept of True, is that we have to work together on the different steps of the value chain in order to create some impact. Finally, I'd like to finish by welcoming everybody who's interested in legumes, not just here in this region, but in the Mediterranean region, because next year in July, we will have the General Assembly and the next Mediterranean Legume Innovation Network meeting, and this will be in Porto, where I'm stationed. So I hope to see you in July. Thank you.
So I come from a private company in Denmark. I do market research, and as you can see, I cover the full value chain. And this is the background I bring into the project. And how did I actually get involved in the project? Well, I have a strong international network, and I knew that proteins was a hot topic, particularly plant proteins. So I thought this is probably something very, very interesting. I want to deal more with this. And the European perspective is always attractive. So I was involved in this. And what is my contribution? I come with a background in marketing, so I do the market research and study the supply chains for food, feed, and food service. And here are just some of the examples of what we see when we look at the markets. Does it change automatically? Boom. I also have some case studies. I do case studies about innovative food products. Here are some examples from the UK, from Germany, and the latest product here marketed in Denmark, minced meat based on pea proteins. I do case studies about food service, looking at the restaurant market and opportunities for biological product and vegetarian products. Case studies about feeding pigs with proteins, plant proteins, fava beans, and then global case study where we look at peas from a micro perspective and also in a global perspective. And putting all of this together should give a very good background for bringing in some market knowledge to the true project. But coming back to experiences, what did I actually know when I started? I was very familiar with the peas in the food market, I knew that. I knew also that clover grass was very, very relevant for dairy cattle. But the point was, the more I learned, the more I discovered that there was a very big hidden potential in legumes. And here's just another perspective. What is legumes as a new perspective? It's in Danish, but the point is, legume is also about harvesting clover grass and processing this and into a biorefinery system where we bring out some refined protein for pig feed. This is an organic system. But just to give you the perspective, this is also legumes. You could also say it inspired me to start experimenting to grow this, and I actually succeeded in harvesting a handful of sugar snaps, and I'm not a gardener, so I was actually quite proud of this. It inspired me to take interest in biodiversity, and I learned that this was also a clover, also a legume. So I keep on learning the more I go. I looked for this in feed because I have the case study, and I discovered that we have legumes in feed for fish and for pigs, and I even found it in horse feed. I found it in a can of dog feed. There you find dried peas, actually. So legumes are actually everywhere. And then I was also experimenting. We went to this trip in the Soybean Alps, the organic farmer. I bought some lentils. I've never cooked lentils. I tried, I learned, and I experimented. I looked for this. This is a Danish flyer from the local supermarkets. They have a lot of vegetarian products, meat-free products on sale this week and so on. This is an entrepreneur telling about his soybeans covered in chocolate, big snack product, really on the market, expensive, alert, audience. And a local baker had developed a brownie, gluten-free brownie with bean flour. We tested the products with a focus group. We learned that taste is definitely the #1 priority if you want to have product in the market. It has to taste good, even legume-based chocolate products. It has to have this special flavor. So the point is actually that some of my experiences from the project is that legumes are far more than just peas and beans. And legumes are everywhere and can be grown everywhere in the world and can be used for so much more than what we know today. So trying to give this a larger perspective, then I will just round up to say that legumes are needed in the global agri-food systems. We have already learned that, and I think that impact is a way to make this happen. And I can only say that my most important experience from joining the project is that it does actually create impact. And the most personal learning is grow as you go. Thank you very much.
Okay, I talk about the first Continental Legume Innovation and Networking Workshop. My name is Henrik. I'm from the University of Hohenheim, and I'm responsible for the Work Package 1, which is the knowledge exchange and communication of the TRUE project. So all these LIN workshops, stakeholder meetings, but also the website and the cookbook that was presented by Claudia are part of the Work Package 1. And yes, today we are here at the second Continental workshop. You saw already a few times this map with 3 hydroclimatic regions of the TRUE project. And yes, I give you a short impression about what we did last year in Hohenheim. And you will see that also the results are a bit similar. When I prepared the Pecha Kucha, I also read that only pictures are allowed and only a few words, so you will basically see a dia show or something like. No, but yeah, it started quite interactive as well to see which people were involved. So we had invited stakeholders from all across the value chain. Not many producers, but more the consultants were attending, and also researchers, breeders, processors. We had in the beginning the question, where are you from? And so of course it was in Germany. Most of the people were from Germany. Here it's the same. It's in Hungary. Most of the people are from the region, but yes. We had co-hosts. These were the lupin. I think I have to stop. This makes me a bit nervous that it's going so fast. We have in Germany a protein strategy. I go back. So we have a protein strategy, and that contains at the moment 3, and from this year on 4 networks based on legumes. And we had the coordinators from these networks with us, so they gave a talk about their experiences. And you saw that the forage legumes were missing, so from this year on we also will have a network caring about small-seeded and forage legumes. These networks, I think, are very important to show how good it can be to grow legumes and how it works. So it's more like a demonstration network. We discovered, we worked on a transdisciplinary research toolbox. So you see Maria on the left side. She's from the rural sociology. She helped us with this, and that helps to interact, or should help us to interact with the legume stakeholders. This is a matrix invented by Karen. She wanted all participants to show where they are from. So, are they from local, national? It's really fast. Local, national. So you see, it was half conventional and organic, and most of the people attending were from the food sector, and not so many from the feed sector. And I don't know what other sectors, maybe biomass. So yeah, we had a few local people, but many internationals. And like tomorrow, we also had a lot of posters. You can find the documentation on the True website as well, with the book of abstracts, and also the links to the posters. You can see all posters on the True website. So yeah, there were many presentations, like from Maria Fink, the professor. She's doing a lot of breeding, but also plant protection on an organic university in Germany. You know that one, that guy? And she's from Croatia, and he's from the German Alliance for Agricultural Research. They had also a group working on legumes and preparing the German food protein strategy. I think on the table where Barland is standing at the moment, there's also a brochure from this protein strategy I was talking about. We had some exhibitions of new legume-based products. So some people were there with legume snacks and miso made out of legumes, and you saw some of the IGV products on the previous picture. We also had some people there that are into machineries, like processing techniques. This is a toaster for legumes, but it's a small size. It's the smallest toaster, I think, because if you are talking about small supply chains or short supply chains, then you also have to talk about small machineries. Of course, we had legume-based lunch, and I think the lunch that was very legume-based filled up the legume needs for the whole week of the participants. But it was good to discover all the different ways to cook legumes. there were a lot of results. I mean, if you work a lot and if you produce a lot of these small cards, then you think you really have done a good job. But in the end, only only the things that really make a change count. So all these cards are gone, and what counts is we had the three groups. We had breakout groups from production, policy, and markets, and we asked the people afterwards to vote on these outcomes, and this is the ranking. Sorry, this is the ranking of the outcomes from the production group. So regional legume networks are a very important issue, a very important leverage point. Of course, monetary incentives, communication, research, education, general ecology as a fundament of sustainability, and the idea of producer groups to be a stronger player in the market. For the market group, we also had some results similar to the ones we heard before, or also similar to what Marta presented, with the consumer education and consumer habits and transparency as the main leverage points. Also marketing and processing are important leverage points. And there were also the questions about high volume trading and the feed markets that could really make a change in the share of legumes growing on European fields. For the policy, the issues were education again. I think it was a crossover topic in all three groups. The CAP reform, but also the resource policy and the research policy were very important and highly ranked. The organic and small-scale farming, nutrition and diets, climate adaptation, policy coherence, and market policy. And in the final discussion, we had some topics. This is from the documentation of the C-LIN. So the C-LIN report contains a lot of words, and I took out all the ends and the width and whatever. So these words are in the size as, yeah, you know what I mean. I'm also like Janusz, maybe a bit tired. Yes, we had a field trip, but it was November when we had this meeting, so we didn't have such a nice weather as in April in Athens, so we got a very nice talk from the founder of this lentil initiative that Veronica introduced to you already, and they also have very many products with lentils, but also with lupines and other legumes. So yeah, it was a nice trip and an inspiring trip. They have a packet, yeah, you heard about it. So yeah, that's it basically about the last C-LIN, and I'm already really enjoying this year's C-LIN. Thank you.
I was tasked with telling you a little bit about the background to TRUE. It's to find transition paths towards food and feed chains which are sustainable. That was simply what the EU tasked us with. Not to establish them, but just to identify them. I'm going to start telling you about legumes. You know about legumes, but they're wonderful plants. A little bit of water, added to a little bit of sunlight. It's converted into photosynthate, passed to the roots. The roots take air. There are these wonderful, wonderful structures called root nodules that deliver protein to the plant. Yet, legumes are not king. Fertilizer seems to be king. And it's strange that we have a plant that can give us all that we need in terms of fertilizer and nutrition. Yet, we know that fertilizer-dominated crop systems persist. You know, as a coordinator, I have to ask why that is. And if we look certainly at data from Scotland, I think this is typical for most places in Europe. Synthetic fertilizer use increased in the 1960s. Legumes declined from the 1920s. It predates fertilizer. So what happened? We can't blame simply fertilizers for the demise of legumes. I think there are, well, quite a few reasons. We're teasing, we're teasing out many of them today. So unless why we put legumes? The truth is we do use a lot of legumes, but they're not homegrown, of course. They're imported. I suspect that the answer is to do with industrialization of the food system. So our battle is not with fertilizer or even fertilizer-dependent crops. I suspect the larger battle is with the industrialization of food. And what I hope the next slide will show us there is we dig down to look at the linkages as to why that's happened. There are quite a few, and you've identified a few of them today. So if you remove legumes from the system and you industrialize food, you're alienating consumers from their consumption patterns, the way they grow food. So there's a picture here of only one link that's broken, but there's actually several links that are broken. And I think we need to spend a little more time thinking about the non-intended consequences excuse me, what goes on. And because I don't think we've got them all, we've got many of them, but I really want to dig down deeper into this industrialization of the food system and the number of links that have gone. Of course, one of the big links that have appeared is this one here. It's a very important link, but it's not the only link. So how do we reconnect? I think the other chains, which are one with society and another one with the environment, to match, to make sure it harmonises with this chain for money. We know that what the damage is being done, I think, generally to the world at large. There's some terrible statistics, whether it's insects or nitrogen in groundwater, air pollution, that go with the fact that we can globalise food systems. But what's the consequence, really, to the way that we think and the way that we behave towards, our food systems? It's a bit like inhaling second-hand smoke, because the consumer has become passive in the system. So, we are thinking about food, but I want to think about I would like it if you thought a little about the links that are degraded by the way we respond to industrialized food systems. Because our brains are not generally full of this stuff, they're full of, I don't know, iPads, other things, getting your next job done, rushing to the next thing. And also, we need to think about equality and equity in the food system. There's a lot of great innovation products. They're serving the middle classes, maybe even the upper class, but are they serving perhaps the people who suffer from hidden hunger? And, that's another link. So, the question I have to pose is, well, we have allowed population increase, and on the whole, hunger has been on the decline until very recently, in fact, but it's on the rise again, mainly due to war. But have the chains we've built, and some of those chains were good originally, are they now shackles? I even look at some advertising. This is the American Grass-Fed Beef Association. They don't mention legumes. These are actually legume grass-fed beef, but they're advertised as grass-fed. And to me that's curious, and even though legumes are there, they're ignored. So, I'd like you to read that for yourself. I just thought it was nice. And so I put it up there. But that when I read that, I thought, yeah, that's kind of like legumes, and I adapted it, it's not the original. But legumes suffer from that. So, we have a legacy, and I think it's clear to me that it's not just about the legumes, it's about the soil. I think we're in danger of over-focusing on protein, because the benefits to the soil are terrific, and there's also fibre and essential minerals and a whole lot of other things that legumes deliver. And I don't think we should be very careful not to focus on the protein. And also we see things like this from politicians that really annoy me. We're not meant to be political, but I'm not being political, I'm just reporting the news. And this is Juncker saying that he will accept soybean from the Americas if the Chinese won't buy it. It's good, probably a great business decision. in terms of money, but it's not going to support legume systems in Europe. It's going to undermine them, in fact. So, in the talk, although we have legumes, we see paradox, irony, and contradiction. And I just quite like this picture. And you can imagine what will happen with that boat when it's put to sea. So that, I think, wraps up my talk. I'll leave you with Karachi's The Bean Eater, which I think you know, it's great, and I hope we've got time to enjoy more legume food later on. Thank you for listening.
The idea behind is that we like to find legumes which are almost forgotten. So, and then was the link between almost forgotten legumes and traditional food. Okay. So, but we are also open for new ideas. So our traditional dishes, which are how do you say it? Which are created in a new way.
Okay.
So,
sounds good. Thank you.
Do you think eventually your work on life cycle assessments, linking the nutritional value and the environmental impact of a product, will appear as a label to inform the consumer? And I just wondered what you thought of that, because the consumers are getting an awful lot of information presented to them. And how do we do that in a way that doesn't leave them confused and annoyed?
Thank you for your question. This is a very challenging question, because on life cycle community we discuss this. We have on our discussion how can we promote this information in an easy way to understand, but also in a robust way, with like consistency and with transparency. Because sometimes we just read it's a sustainable product, it's environmental friendly, but what does it really mean? So we have, definitely it's going to be a lot of work after we calculate this, to how we should communicate that to the main population and to main consumers, and who are these consumers. Today we have some environmental product declarations, but not much related to final consumer standards. So this is a challenge. I don't have the answer for your question, but I hope you can help me to find out. We can do this together, and for sure will be a valuable contribution for a true project in the end.
One of the products I showed you on the slide was this pack of, it looks like minced meat, and it's made with pea protein. It's a very new product. It was started in the Danish supermarkets around Christmas last year. And it's a Danish company which actually produces this, and it's possible because the technology, the extrusion technology and the composition of the product is actually okay now, so it tastes like meat when you prepare it. And it was started when it came into the supermarket. It was more like, where should we actually place this product, was a typical question from the retailers, because is it a vegetarian product? Is it a meat alternative? Is it something for people requiring special dietary requirement? So what should we actually do with it, was the retailer's question. And they said, okay, we put it next to normal minced beef, because then you can choose your beef or your non-beef product. And it turned out actually to be a super success. The product really took off, and from being in a test supermarket, it was nationwide and sales just skyrocketed. The company has later taken it into the UK supermarket. I know it was into Sainsbury, and it showed exactly the same trends. It was just, wow, great product, because everybody can use it. And we've seen on the TV that young people in Copenhagen, the students, they buy this because they want to have vegetarian dinners, so this is really, really trendy. So they buy it and they can cook with it, because all young people, they can do spaghetti bolognese and they can do burgers. So this product has a really, really broad appeal. So it really catches on, and it's a supermarket product. And the latest development in this story is actually that now they have come up with something which can be sold to restaurants and canteens, so they go for the food service market. So coming back to answering your question, if you have a product which really appeals to the consumers, it will take off if you have a good marketing and if the supermarkets and distribution channels can handle this product. Because I think that the point is actually, if you want to have success in the market, coming back to which consumer groups would have this, you would have the best appeal if you have the right marketing, the right price. Then you have the right audience for it too. Because I think if you look at the lots of statistics and consumer research, which is also out there, you can see a lot of research showing that it is the urban population, it's the people between 30 and 40, 45, the affluent, well-educated, who go for these special products. There was a presentation, I don't remember who gave it, who also talked about different consumer products and consumer research and consumer groups. But the point is, again, where should you sell it? And where's your customers? Because I've also seen in Germany, you see these products in the Drogerie-markten, which are very special for gluten-free and high protein and so. So yes, there is definitely also a market for this segment, for this kind of products, in this kind of store, with this kind of prices. So therefore, I think I've only added to the confusion now, and this I think is an essential point, because there is just not one market for this group of products. I want to stick with my basic answer, which is it's coming down to marketing and identifying your market and finding the right way to bring your product into the market. And again, this comes back to it's almost a mantra if you look at consumer research, and that is, don't ask the consumers what they want because they don't know, but give them a product and they will show you if they take it on. So I think this is what I wanted to.
Yeah, I think, just to answer the same, I think in Germany it was the same some 5 years ago. You could find these products only in Drogeriemarkt, Rossmann and so on. But now there are more or less mass products in the market. So, but it's very difficult. In Hungary, for example, I wanted to buy only light cheese or light meat, you know, minced meat, with reduced fat. I didn't find. No. Cora or Ocean, the big ones, they didn't have. Only in Lidl I found something like reduced fat salami or something like that. So I had an accident of 10 kilograms after 2 weeks. So I think, and also in Hungary is very special. They have a lot of Hungarikum, you know? Tepertős pogácsa, mangalica szalon, yeah? And it's very difficult to concur. They are meat-based products. Partially. So it's very difficult to put in the minds of people, and if you look at Hungary, it's concentrated to Budapest, and the rest is living at the countryside, so to say, in smaller towns and so on. So also the tradition plays a big role. Every week, I think there is a Kolbász festival in Hungary, so it's also the tradition, and this tradition is very strong. That's my, but it will come. I'm thinking of opening a spin-off or something.
I have a question for Janos. It's about the flavor and about the bolognese. A few weeks back I made a dinner in my house and I made a bolognese made with meat, and I made another pan made with soybean-based nuggets that resembled the bolognese. Okay, and I did the challenge, and there was a lot of people in my house, and I made the challenge if you could guess which one was which, and 100% people were able to discriminate between the two, of course. So it was a failure. But so I'm wondering, when can we have these pea-based in Portugal in retail, so that I can do it again?
It's a question of price, and the price. It's the euro what Pete. It's binding chains, but sometimes it cuts chains also, because the price dictates. Okay, I'm paying a little bit more for better products, which I know that they are really very good for my health. In general. Regarding your question, the pea-based products are really neutral in taste, so they will not taste like like beef or something like that. It's the question of the further processor. So just to give you a better understanding, we are producing only the basic ingredients like flakes, crisps, nuggets, and so on. And there are players from the market which are also animal meat producers who recognize this trend and try to implement new vegan and vegetarian products into the market, which are embracing this trend because consumer dictates in the end. And they put aromas, if they are natural or not, I don't know. What we have made at demo level and trial level with own cooks, it was all clean label. Even our spices and binders are clean label, no E numbers, no animal origin, everything is vegan. And it's still competitive. If you look to a bolognese from a businessman point of view, we are selling water, really, because it absorbs a lot of water. And it's still tasty and it's still nutritious. You have high protein. So this is, if real businessmen will recognize this, also in Portugal, I think it will be in the retail. In Germany, it's in retail. So.
But you know, the cost of diabetes at the moment is about 12% of national budgets on average. So that's a consumption issue. And if you as a conscientious company, let's say, selling a good product onto the market, the question is, and it's to the floor, should your product be subsidized? Because you're saving the country money if people choose to watch their diets, reduce their consumption, and be more careful in their consumption.
I'll give you another example. So
yeah.
You need here protein concentrates and protein isolates. Yeah, it's about protein, I'm sorry. It's really about protein. It's about energy, it's about water. The world is about energy today. So this will be world war or peace in the future, but that's another story. Anyway, the price for the raw materials is between 3.8 to 4.2 euros for the protein isolates in the market currently. And look, in Germany there is a big meat producer called Rügenwalder Müller. They are selling really rubbish, and they know about it. But they make a big campaign in the TV. You see only Rügenwalder Müller, and all is based on soy. We don't know which kind of soy. It's based partially already on pea. We know the German suppliers who has a very bad protein isolate quality. We have compared in our labs and in our trials. We made burgers with this French raw material and with the German. I'm sorry to say, the German was bad quality for the extrusion and also for the processability. It was a little bit cheaper, but not that cheap to influence the price. And we had in-house also supermarkets, big supermarkets from Germany at highest level, and sometimes like 10 cents. We are talking about 10 cents. Could you go 10 cents lower and so that? Because the packaging, the attraction, everything plays a role. And in the end, the product which we are selling as raw material, intermediary raw material, so to say, because it's an extruded product, okay? It's 6, 7, 8 euros per kilogram. It comes into a bolognese. I won't tell you the ratio of the bolognese, but in the end, the deep frozen 250 grams, it will be still competitive with the other ones because it will be between 2.5, 3.5 euros. And the people still can buy it, but it's not in the market. People are buying rubbish, like soy from I don't know where, and they make a much higher margin than to take the risk with European pea. So that's the truth. It's about the price, it's about the politics. And they are like this, like a chain. So.
Just to complete also on what Janos was saying about your suggestion on taxation, I think we need to be a little bit careful on that because, for example, in Portugal we have a sugar tax, and in other countries, in Hungary also, and in certain countries it has backfired. So people have actually increased the consumption of sugary drinks even despite the taxation. So there need to be really good consumer studies to evaluate the impact of all scenarios, but maybe a positive stimulus could work better than a negative one, perhaps.
Maybe I can add, if you look at the example of Switzerland, it's not talking about tax, but about the true costs of meat, for example. And I'm not an expert about the policies there, but they prefer or local produced meat is more important to Switzerland, and you pay very high import taxes when you import meat from Germany and sell it there. So meat is very expensive compared to other products there because it is locally produced, and yeah, it has the real cost. It is not from cheaper countries, and I don't know how legume consumption is there, but it certainly has an effect, because if the meat has a certain price, then suddenly other products will become more interesting.
What kind of marketing tools you find the best, the most efficient?
Some of the people here know this story, but I was in the European Union recently, and I was talking to somebody really quite senior who's helping to write a plant protein plan. And they hadn't realized until that meeting that legumes got their nitrogen from the air. And they didn't get their nitrogen, it was believed that they just got the nitrogen from the ground with great efficiency. So if you're finding quite senior people in policy who don't know what a legume does, you've got an uphill struggle, because there's no point trying to explain all the benefits of a legume if you don't know what they do. And it was, I'm going to quote somebody famous, it was the guy who sang It's a Wonderful World. Go on, help me. The gentleman that sang the song It's a Wonderful World, Louis Armstrong, said, I believe it's a quotation of his, if you don't know what it is, I'm never going to be able to explain it to you. And any marketing, I feel, is destined to fail unless fundamental education is, not that we just teach people about what's good to eat, but to teach them, I'm looking at slow food because I think they appreciate this already, but to actually teach them how food is made and the costs of food production.
These guys, which are now 7, 8 years old, maybe they will be parliamentary deputies or something like that later, and they will maybe remember. It's like my sister doesn't like goat, and my mother told her we have only goat milk today. Oh, I don't like it. Did you try it? No. So it's something to make creative, because my sister had in the mind this not so beautiful creature for her, and she didn't like anything what comes from goat. So if you don't make products attractive, you will not be able to sell them. And from an academic point of view, it's very good, and education is very good, but the products must address masses.
Yeah.
You have to have a very good story behind. You have to use a very good face for it. It doesn't have to be David Beckham, okay? But somebody who is well known and is an influencer, so to say. And I think social media has a role to play for that. To the teenagers, you cannot talk about legumes with them. So come on, yeah? It's you need a rapper or something. And I saw a very nice video. Where did I saw that? It was about beans. Beans in Africa. Yeah, there was and something like that. So I think we cannot expect from the politicians or from the businessmen to bring these things to the people just because it's good for the people. Okay? It has to be good for the masses, and the masses will then dictate, like the gluten-free, like organic, like other trends which are today present in a quite increased ratio in the market.
Thanks for this advertisement. So then, finally, thank you so much for this afternoon session. Thank you for your contribution. Thank you for the presenters. I think all of us did a really brilliant job. with this Pecha Kucha stuff. I'm sorry for pushing this onto you. I hope it's not totally useless. I think it was quite vivid and quick. So, so let's close now and continue during the dinner. Thank you so much. Maybe some last words.